Welcome. Thank you for joining in. We'll start very soon. My computer is not listening to me and is still playing audio here, so I'll get that fixed. But we'll start in just a few minutes. We're going to give people some time to join in via Zoom if they are doing so. Thank you for being here. All right, thank you for joining us. I now call this meeting of the Seattle Sotheby's School Board to order. We are first going to turn to Director Joe Greenherron for our land acknowledgement. Joe.
Thank you. Since this is the month of Women's History Month, before I begin the land acknowledgement, I want to acknowledge a Indigenous woman here in the United States, Deb Haaland, one of the very first Indigenous Congress people and the first Indigenous cabinet secretary. And I hope that folks can look up her groundbreaking work and also think of her as one of the many Indigenous women who point to the intersectionality of justice. And so we honor women in general for Women's History Month, but also acknowledge that the fight for equality is very intersectional. South Whidbey School District would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral homelands, originally known as Chikolche and Luke Seed of the coastal Salish peoples, on the lands of the lower Skagit, Tulalip, Swinomish, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Squamish, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial and have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty and their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude to the Indigenous people of this territory and for their endearing care and protection of the land in which we currently occupy and share through the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed by 82 tribes in Mukilteo on January 22nd, 1855.
Thank you, Joe. Just a note, I know that many of you are likely to leave after your presentations, but if there are folks who want to stay and give public comment, please sign up at the back with Mrs. Macaro on the, let's see here, house right back of the room if you'd like to make public comment. She'll ask for your name, generally where you live, and then we'll get you signed up for public comment. If you are online and wish to make public comment, please use the Q&A function to note your name and location. Just hit enter so we know that you want to say something, and then later on, and then you can type up what you want to say, and I will read it. Okay, we'll move on. Are there any objections to the agenda and minutes as they are presented? Hearing none, the agenda and minutes are approved as presented. Are there any objections to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented.
May I briefly just interrupt to say how exciting it is that our jazz musicians are heading out to that festival, and have fun and travel safely.
And bring back some hardware. We'll move on to the presentations part of our agenda. Dr. Moshe.
Thank you. So I am so pleased to bring up Mrs. Susie Richards, who is going to introduce our ALE report. And we have some students here to bring it alive for the board. And before we go on, I want to make sure that all of the students who are here, including those who will present after our ALE students, know that there is a swag bag up here for each one of you. It includes things that say South Whidbey on it and candy. And most importantly, a sticker that says how brave you are for presenting to your school board. So Mrs. Richards, please.
Thank you so much. So thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to families. It's really wonderful to see so many people here. We have a PowerPoint presentation slideshow you'll see here, and I'm going to just zoom through as fast as I can so we can get to the important piece in the children. So Christy, if you don't mind jumping in, this is a requirement of the ALE program to present to our school board each year. As some of you know, we started the ALE program as really a result of COVID and all the Zoom focused instruction. A number of families came together asking for some alternatives, and the program was born through the support of our school board and our district administration. We then moved into the first full year of the actual ALE program last year. So we are in year 2. Next slide, please. Families want choices, and we are so fortunate in our community to have so many choices for our families. And we were especially excited that we could provide this range of options within the public school system. That to me is one of the most exciting elements of our program. Next slide, please. Our ALE team, I'm really excited to introduce our teachers. Kara Sristoff down there on the floor with her 1st and 2nd graders, Andrea Mitchell with our 3rd through 5th grade program, and Roy Newton with our 6th through 8th grade program. We also have Andy and Michelle who are with us as part of our team and community partners. Very fortunate to have such a powerful group. Next slide, please. This is a requirement, and Dan's going to speak briefly to this, that we update the board on our enrollment data.
So we currently have about 66 students in our K-8 program and another about 7 students in a program called Spokane Virtual Academy. When we looked at the enrollment numbers, we looked at the kids that currently were enrolled in the district and wanted to transfer, and then those that were new to the district who wanted a different option. So about 32% of the kids, or a third of the kids roughly, were new to the district because of this program. And about 2/3 was students that were currently enrolled but wanted to move into an alternative program.
The opposite, I think.
No, about a third.
Oh, I
Transferred
was just
in,
looking at the
yeah.
date on the slide.
Okay. So it's basically the same breakdown of the new students. 39% had never been enrolled in a public school in person. 16% had tried our district before, but decided to homeschool instead and came back to us. And then 13% of that was completely new to the district because of this program.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. We won't, of course, read all these, but really the heart of our program is community partnerships and engaging students in real community-based action projects where they see their academic learning really come alive through authentic engagement and really making a difference in our community in so many ways. That's just a partial list of all the folks and organizations we connect with. Next slide, please. This is again a requirement. I'm not going to read it. We are very well aligned with our district mission and goals. Next slide, please. And there's the goals. Yes, we're very well aligned. Next slide, please. And this is again is our head count, as Dan explained. Next slide, please. Dan, do you want to say anything about this slide, please?
There's really not much to say. We have about 66 kids and 3 certificated teachers. So it's a ratio of 22-to-1, which is just something that we report in our reporting to OSBI.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's get to the good part. Here comes our 1st and 2nd graders. Ms. Ristoff, do you want to come up with your kiddos? And
All right, so I have 3 students here with me. I wanted to start on this slide. Some of the quotes from the slides are students that aren't here with us today, but I just wanted to quickly read through those quotes. The first one is from one of our students, Riddick. He says, "I love seeing how everyone finds really creative ways to participate in learning and that everyone is unique, but treats each other with kindness and respect in a way that supports our community." Another quote comes from a student, Gus. "I love our pollinator garden and our daily tea." And another from Isla, "Our class is so kind and takes care of the earth and is kind to others." Next slide, please. I wonder, this is the 3rd through 5th grade, but we do have slides specifically for 1st and 2nd. I wonder if we can. Do you want me to read the 3rd through 5th or? Okay. Okay, next slide, please. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And one more. It's a little backward. I think our specific slides for our students that will be presenting are near the end. So if you can keep going. Here we go. So if you go back one slide, just on this one, I'm gonna announce our students. The first student I have is Irene. Irene is in 2nd grade, Ingrid in 1st grade, and Evan, who will also be sharing for us. So next slide, please.
Community is a place where tons of people live close together and know each other well. People in communities may be teachers, restaurant owners, and farmers. They may donate to each other or those in need. Being a part of a community makes us feel loved, challenged, important, and listened to. Our community provides our lives with friends, family, joy, and happiness. Our favorite part of the community is friends and activities that are fun. Our community is special because we care about each other, share with each other, and show love and kindness. Because of our community, we've met our class family.
All right, and our next student, Evan.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name's Evan, and I'm in 2nd grade. We took a bus to the state park, learned about fungus, plants, painted rocks. Oh, the game pieces. I think I want to do that.
Great. All right, and next is going to be a joint between Ingrid and Irene on our pollinator garden.
Well, our pollinators garden is fun. We're getting plants from the nursery tomorrow, and we're going to make it a garden that has ornamental woods and also meadow prairie. There's going to be picnic tables and places where kids can play in the grass. And we're also already starting sprouts inside the classroom. I know there's some Black-Eyed Susan in there. And we cleaned out the beds. They're old fairy seat holder uppers, and we're cleaning them out, and we're making sure it's a salmon-friendly gardening.
All right, next I'm going to pass it off to Andrea Mitchell and her students.
Thank you. This way? Okay. Yeah, come on over here, you two. In the interest of time, I've been asked not to read all of the quotes, but I would just like to read one. which is the top one, which says, I love ALE because it thinks that you can't just learn and never experience, you have to do it to learn it. And so that's what we do. And also Pat Masali was supposed to be here this evening, but she is sick. But we do have Orson and Wally. I'll hand it over to you. Wally is going to tell us, Wally, what's your favorite project that you've been working on this year in ALE?
I have been working on CPR.
This one?
I've been
Oh,
working.
next slide, please. Okay.
I've been working on CPR and babysitting, and I like CPR because it helps people and it's fun. And I like babysitting because you get to hang out with younger children and
Orson, this is Orson, third grader, fourth grader, Orson. He tell about our habitat restoration with our, what do you like about that?
well, we've been removing a bunch of blackberries and like going around the salmon berries, and there's a whole wall that used to be filled with blackberries and now there's none.
And what do we put there instead?
We put a bunch of other species of native plants. I really like woodworking because I get to use tools and have fun and build garden boxes. And we're about to build bat boxes.
Thank you. Nice job, you guys.
No. Oh, over there.
Screen and read it?
No.
Or over here?
Okay.
ALE 6 through 8, we're working with on a variety of projects.
Let me hand you a mic.
Okay, I see. And these wonderful students are involved with the community members working together to, provide our community a better place to live in many cases. They're involved in a number of projects, and they're going to talk to you about these projects that they're really happy to be a part of. So I'll hand them off to you. Anya Benson, Lil Green Heron, and Dina Erickson, and then we'll have Lucas Pitts, I believe, and Evan Dix. Come on up. And you can also look up there if you'd like to read it.
One more. Yeah, next slide. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Lucas Pitts, Evan Dix. We'll go one more.
No, you go first.
The ALE 6th through 8th grade students entered a regional competition in June 2022 called Future City. Their task was to create a city in the future that would be 100% sustainable, using an engineering design process and researching current sustainable methods such as solar and wave energy, carbon capture methods, alternative batteries, hurricane resistant technologies, artificial reefs, and more.
They created a city designed to adapt and mitigate climate change. They competed over 20 other teams. They competed over 20 other teams who create cities of the same purpose to adapt and mitigate climate change.
Our city was called Lupain and won best use of scales. The competition took place at the Shoreline Community College campus.
And we're going to be doing this project next year. The zero waste ordinance has basically been trying to get an ordinance in Langley where there won't be any waste, and we'll try and get rid of all the plastic problems that are in Langley. And so far, we've just been talking to businesses to see how we can help them get through getting rid of their plastic items and turning
Unnecessary.
and getting rid of any unnecessary plastics.
Oh, am I starting? Okay. Ordinance for the city of Langley, which was designated to eliminate single-use plastics. The Zero Waste group teamed up with Langley Council member Rhonda Salerno, and with her help, the ordinance passed in June 2022. However, Langley has been unable to put it into effect, so our ALE students have continued their efforts, this time focusing on working together with the community to find a solution on how to best implement the ordinance.
We have teamed up. Okay. Okay.
Hello, my name is Lucas,
My name is Evan.
and we are working on a solar project to make a fountain on the South Campus.
6th through 8th grade students are creating a fountain powered by solar energy. They implemented the engineering design process and would construct a fully functioning fountain, which includes the following: solar panel, pump, battery storage, pump, microbit chip, LED lights, and a circuitry.
When it will be finished is June 2023. We are doing this to attract pollinators and birds, to install a water feature for the community to enjoy, to learn about alternative energy, the environment, and engineering cycle, and to have fun and learn from Tim Economou, a local solar engineer.
And I just want to give a quick shout out to the community members that are involved in this program, like Andy Kopitz, Michelle Sakaguchi, and many others that are coming together to really make this program a wonderful program that it is, and allowing these kids to be able to learn and interact with the community, and, as I said before, create a better place for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If you would, all the students who are here from ALE could come up. I have a little something for you. Oh, you're quite welcome.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to see all the work that y'all are doing to make the community around you better.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Presenting. Excellent work. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. And we are moving right on to our middle school presentation. Mrs. Phillips, thank you.
Thank you for having us. I recruited 12 students, hoping to get a few, and I got all 12. So we have plenty here to fill seats tonight. I would talk at you, but really, you know, the fruit of this is coming from them and the experiences that they've had at our middle school. As you know, we're housed on our secondary. There's good energy out there. We are housed on the secondary campus as a 7-8 building. And we are, you'll hear tonight from some students who are working to welcome the incoming 6th and 7th graders next year. We run a 5-period schedule right now, so they're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the experiences they've had in one of their classes. So the visuals are there, and I've kind of prompted them to talk with you. And then the visuals there are just to enhance the information they have. And we thought for fluidity's sake, if you had a question to a specific slide, go ahead and ask them before they go ahead and sit down, and they welcome any questions that you might have. So with that, I believe I welcome Corinna and Bailey.
Oh, shoot.
Good evening, everyone. I am Bailey Cornwell, and we're going back to your middle school year, starting with Corinna walking you through Southwood Middle School yearbook class. In yearbook, we learned how to use a camera, send informational emails and letters, marketing, and how to communicate professionally with adults. We also have tons of fun and work as a team. These letters and emails that we receive are sponsorships. Sponsorship money goes to new camera and scholarship books for those who cannot afford one. Our goal is to have each student in the book at least 3 times, because adding 2.5 people doesn't really make sense. We make countless posters to promote the yearbook and get students to add their own special touch to the page. We take photos of events and action-filled sports that students will remember forever. And even though it can be a little scary, sometimes we always sneak into classrooms to capture students working hard. As a class of 9 and one awesome teacher, we work hard, but still find a way to make it fun. It's easy to collaborate with one another to create memorable moments and lasting pages. We have monthly raffle prizes for students who have bought a yearbook, and we love working in yearbook and having something to work towards. Thank you for your time.
I'm talking about the ceramics program in the Southwood School District, and we learned how to create pottery that is both functional and beautiful. Another great benefit of the class is that working with clay is a great stress reliever, so it's an amazing start to your day. Studies have shown that doing ceramics decreases cortisol, the main stress hormone, in levels by up to 75%. Lowered stress in students can make them more responsive in class activities and create a better classroom environment. In the class, there's a $20 fee, but the school will cover that if you cannot pay it. And it is amazing because for kids that can't afford that fee, they can still do the ceramics class and still have that amazing experience.
Hello, my name's Charlie. This is Georgia and Kaya, and we are going to be talking about the Cougar Orientation Program. We are working to help with the smooth transition between our schools.
Hello, I'm Kaya. And so our main goal is to make the incoming 5th and 6th graders feel welcome and comfortable with the changes in our schools. We have roughly 20 7th graders working on the orientation and presentations. The presentation group will walk down to the 5-6 campus to present. The presentation group's main goal is to fill in the 5th and 6th graders on what changes are going to be made and what our plans are for the upcoming school year. The orientation group's main goal is to make the incoming students feel welcome and not worried about the facility because it is larger and may feel more stressful. The Cougar student leaders are still in the process of planning and moving forward to help everyone coming to the campus feel welcome. Everyone in the group is working very hard to make everything work smoothly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgia. And our upcoming events for the student leaders are in late April. We will be going to the 5th and 6th grade campus, and we will be presenting to all the upcoming Cougars. And then in mid-May, the 5th and 6th graders will be coming to the middle school for the orientation, where we'll be introducing them to the staff, showing them around the building, and connecting with them.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Braxton. I'm Hayden. How are you guys doing tonight?
So tonight we're going to be talking about how study skills helped us and like what we do in the class. What we do in the class is we talk about skills, time management, how to organize notes, how to study for a test, how not to plagiarize because that ain't fun. But and yeah.
Study skills is a great way to keep our grades up because we get the opportunity to work on core class work. Overall, study skills is a great class and taught us both a lot of skills, and we really think this class should be taught more around the US. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emmy Felgar, and I'm in 7th grade.
Hello, my name is Schaefer Harder. I'm also in 7th grade.
And we are here to talk about our math class.
Some things that we do in our math class are hands-on math to help us understand how math works. We go over the same math as other classes do, but at a slower pace. We learn math differently so we can build math confidence.
Some of our favorite activities are making posters that represent real life, creating a resource book, working on the whiteboard, and math games plus competitions. One game we really like is the math relay. We practice problems as a team, and under pressure, the winning team gets to pick a prize from the prize box.
On this slide, you can see examples of our Pi Day poster.
And we use circumference, radius, and diameter. Oh, and thank you for listening.
Hello, school board and community members. My name is Reed Atwood. My name is Lamo Dorier. And we're both 7th graders. During February, Black History Month, we learned about African-American scientists and engineers who've made important historical contributions. After learning about the scientists, we explored possible careers that we might be interested in. We also looked at classes we could take between now and high school graduation that would support these STEM pathways.
We chose Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson, who we knew from the movie Hidden Figures, and we found very inspiring. They had to overcome significant obstacles during a time of segregation and discrimination. Their contribution made it possible to send humans to the moon. Jackson and Johnson paved the way for women and minorities to access STEM careers. This was very uncommon for Black women at the time because of the racism and segregation in society.
This also played into the workplace when Jackson became the first African-American engineer at NASA. Before she arrived at NASA, most engineers were white men. Jackson's achievement was a major step in the civil rights movement for African-Americans and women. Also, there was a political push to win the Cold War space race against Russia to get humans to the moon. Johnson was instrumental in helping NASA achieve this objective.
Eventually, both women was recognized in their achievements. Jackson received the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award in 2015 at the age of 97 from President Obama.
In memory of Jackson, NASA renamed its headquarters in Washington, D.C. the Mary W. Jackson Headquarters in 2021. This was after President Trump signed the Congressional Gold Medal Act.
South Woodbury School District offers many classes that support future careers in STEM fields. For example, ceramics, chemistry, physicals, advanced mathematics, and languages. Sorry.
It is incredible that our students can have all these opportunities for such a small community. We want to thank all South Woodbury School District staff and teachers for making our learning experience special and relevant to our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, they've cited their sources. I also want to give a shout out. We have 3 educators that came tonight that helped in the development of their presentations. I have Miss Mylan, 7th grade science, Miss Maddox, our resource room teacher, and Brooke, our yearbook coordinator. So and to the guardians and grownups that brought their students to school board tonight. I appreciate that. I know that can be really challenging to navigate the many challenges and schedules. So I want to thank you all for that. Do you have any questions you wanted to address to any students specifically? Not to put any of you on the spot.
I just really appreciate the variety of work that's going on in the middle school. I had the opportunity to sit in Miss Mylan's class and see some of these presentations, some of the other ones, and the breadth of study going on is just fantastic. So I really appreciate the work that's going on in the classrooms and that you're willing to come here in front of an audience and people behind a fancy table and talk about what you're doing. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
I have a question for the current 8th graders. So I want to thank you for welcoming the rising 5th and 6th graders to middle school. And what are you excited or nervous about as very soon future high schoolers?
Hayden gets think time.
I'm excited for my brother's a 6th grader, and I'm excited to have him in school again. I mean, it's been a few years since we've been together. I'm a little nervous how we're all gonna fit in there. I'm excited just about next year, and I'm interested in how it's gonna work out in all the sports and academics wise. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited about all the classes I would get to take. One thing that I'm nervous about is like if I fail a class, then I won't be able to like graduate, and then I won't be able to do the stuff I want. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before you head out, be sure to grab your swag bag.
Oh,
from
I
Dr.
want you to
Mo-
come right on up and get your swag
swag
bag if you haven't gotten
Thank
it.
you.
There you go. Thank you so much. Some South Whitby memorabilia, a little bit of candy, you know. Tell your friends, present to the board. It's not that bad. Thank you.
Thank you all for
you,
presenting
thank you.
and have a good evening. And if anyone wants to stay and hear about the bond, we'll be talking about that next. Didn't think so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Come more often. Thank you. All right, we'll now be moving on to our board discussion of an upcoming resolution that we'll be voting on later, because this is a resolution in support of the bond, which we are putting forward before the community. We will have discussion. We will then provide the opportunity for up to that amount of discussion for any comments against this or for it. If there are no further comments, we'll close off comment there, but we will keep it open as long as people want to talk about this or until we've talked about it, as long as the board did on its own. So this is open for discussion to folks up here on the dais. We've all taken a look at the resolution. Any comments, questions, concerns?
So this bond will raise taxes for homeowners, and I take our tax rates pretty seriously. But as homeowners, we all know that the best time to make repairs is quickly. It costs more money to wait. And so I feel that approving this bond is the most cost-effective way to be stewards of our taxpayer dollars. And for so, I urge my colleagues on the board to vote yes on this resolution.
Earlier this month, Katya and I visited the middle school classrooms and we discussed this bond, and a lot of students shared the urgency to have a school that doesn't have water falling down on their heads in the middle of class. So I think this is a crucial bond to pass in order to ensure that students have a learning facility that's safe and comfortable as well, and allows for a crucial learning.
Several of us up here, I should say at least 4 of us up here have been students at South Whitby High School in the current configuration since the most recent significant structural improvements. And I just hope that if my children decide to raise children in this district, that they will be learning in fresher spaces, spaces that they can be proud of, spaces that are healthy and climate responsible.
I'd like to thank the bond committee for putting together such a good bond that addresses the needs of this district, that talks about how to do it and what we need to do, and presents a good collection of work items without going beyond what I believe our community can stand tax-wise. We're still going, assuming that if this is passed, and I would urge my fellow board members likewise to vote to support this. If it is passed by the community, we will still be on the lower end of both districts our size and districts of our tax base as far as taxes going towards the local schools go. And as you said, this is some critical infrastructure, and infrastructure that we can't easily address in any other way. The roof at the secondary school alone, 150,000 square feet. Last I recall, it would be about 7 times what we get in our annual capital improvement levy to repair that, which would mean we would do no updates to any any infrastructure or technology for 7 years in order to just roof the secondary school. And that it's things like this that are why we need this bond to pass.
I would like to just add my gratitude to the administrators who've worked so hard on the nuts and bolts of this, and also to the community members who've asked really rigorous questions, who've encouraged us to be thoughtful and scrutinize the decisions at every stage to make sure that we are making the very best investment with taxpayer dollars, should this be put to the voters and should the voters choose to approve this bond proposal. And I just want to say that I appreciate that participatory energy, and I hope that it continues. And I think that there will be many rich opportunities for additional collaboration with our community as we go forward. So thank you to everyone who has offered their input and wisdom, and to everyone who shall continue to offer it going forward. Thanks.
I just want to point out that what the board is looking at tonight, just for members of the community, the board did place the bond on the ballot a month ago. And tonight, what the board is considering, after having done procedurally what it needed to do, which is to announce this meeting to indicate that it was considering a resolution that would have the board consider whether or not it wants to formally say that it supports this bond. So having done the procedural things, the board is considering whether or not the district, as board members, they can say the district is supporting this bond measure. So that's essentially what the board is voting on tonight, is a resolution to say, if the board votes yes, that it supports its bond and the passage of its bond.
And in preparing for this, we've listened to community members and staff members and students through the survey, and they have enthusiastically supported it in the vast majority. About 2/3 of them have expressed their enthusiastic support for it. Yeah, this is, yes, thank you for the nuts and bolts of what we're doing here tonight. Just to be very clear, this is so that we or anyone in the community can say that the school district supports this if we approve this resolution here tonight. And part of the nuts and bolts is giving an opportunity for the community to comment positively or negatively. And unless there are any other comments, that's what we'll go on to next. Okay, we'll close this discussion and move on to public comments. Do we have anyone?
I would suggest you go on to any comments on the bond before
Yes.
any other
Yes.
comments.
Please, if there are any comments on the bond first. Do we have anyone signed up here tonight? Okay. And I don't see anything here in the Q&A. I'll give it just a minute. If you are watching online on the Zoom call and want to comment on the bond, please put in your name and location in the Q&A function so we know you're typing something up. I'll give it about a minute and then we'll go on to general public comment. Okay, we do have 8 people in the audience, but no request for comment. So thank you to those listening at home. And there appears to be no comment on the bond. So we'll move on to general public comment.
Here, why don't you try this?
All right. My name is Mark Eager. I have some prepared statements. It's just for clarity. I'm from Clinton, so that's where I'm living. And I'm a parent of a senior student athlete and as well as 3 graduates from South Whitby High School. So I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak to the school board about an issue that means a lot to me. I'm a 27-year veteran track and field coach who has also taught for 21 years at South Whitby. I'm here to respectfully request that the school board change the district's current rule forbidding buses from stopping for food on return trips from their various activities. The school board represents the interests of the community and taxpayers, but especially the interests of the students, whether musicians, debaters, or athletes. In other words, ultimately, we're supposed to be all about the kids. So we should ask ourselves, what is in the best interest of the kids regarding this particular issue? During the COVID shutdown, it was understandable that when activities resumed, buses shouldn't increase exposure by making more stops than absolutely necessary. It made sense to return directly to the school without additional stops. However, when the district resumed normal activities, it did not restore the previous practice that permitted kids to stop for food. For whatever reason, somebody decided the kids still can't stop for food after school-related or extracurricular events. This fall, the high school's varsity football team had a game scheduled against Elma, which is a 2-hour drive from the Mukilteo Ferry Terminal. The team was explicitly forbidden from stopping not only for food, but even for a bathroom break, no exceptions. Does the school board believe that directive is in the best interest of kids? The varsity boys basketball coach asked via email about stopping after games and wasn't provided an explanation justifying the policy, even though he asked 5 separate times. This week, when I contacted Dr. Mocha for an explanation, I was informed that we do not stop as it adds time and expense. But let me be clear, we're talking about 15 minutes. And if track can't make the 9 o'clock ferry, we don't stop at all. Further, I'm willing to pay out of my own pocket if necessary, or the booster club. So time, money, and anyone feeling left out should not be an issue. Dr. Moshe also said, quote, "It is not possible to avoid equity issues either. Do we stop for field trips or athletic trips if no one is able to fund the extra time, mileage, et cetera? If equity is a legitimate concern, then the football coach should have been told that in the fall why they couldn't stop for a bathroom break. If equity is the issue, then the basketball coach should have been informed that via email when he requested it. Now, instead of equity creating more opportunities for kids, it's being used to eliminate opportunities and diminish their extracurricular experience, all to save about 15 minutes and a few dollars. Although the district's response to the basketball coach offered no justification for the policy, Dan Pullman noted, quote, "This is a district decision and not one that I personally have the authority to approve. So I am here to request that whomever has the personal authority to approve changing this policy, please change it. And do so as soon as possible before we lose any more weeks of our season. It's just 15 minutes and it's what's best for kids. They have had enough taken away from them during COVID. Let's not take any more away from them. Thank you."
Thank you for sharing your concern. Are there any other public comments? Don't see anything on Zoom either. That being the case, we'll move on to our new business. First up, Memorandum 2223-27, approval of Resolution 670, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the South Whidbey School District number 206, Island County, Washington, expressing support for passage of the district's Proposition Number 1, General Obligation Bonds, $80 million to be submitted to the district's voters at a special election on April 25th, 2023, and making related findings. Is there any further discussion to be had on this? Okay, could I get advisory votes from our student representatives?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-27, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-27 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-22, approval of the update to South Whidbey School District Policy 3421, Child Abuse, Neglect, and Exploitation Prevention, as reviewed on March 8, 2023. Is there any further discussion to be had on this? These are just the minor tweaks that we agreed upon rather than the suggested tweaks that we disagreed with. Okay, could I have student representative advisory votes, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-22, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-22 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-28, approval of the encouraged update to South Whidbey School District Policy 1611, enrollment less than 20,000, or 1610, enrollment greater than 2,000, conflicts of interest, principles of operation. Any further discussion we had on this? Just a note for those here in person or those watching from home, these are ones that we've discussed at least one board workshop, which is where we actually get down with the community and discuss the nitty gritty. And so that's why we're moving through these so quickly. Okay, seeing no further discussion, could I get student advisory votes, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-28, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-28 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-29, approval of the encouraged new policy 2401, financial education, mastery-based learning and credit. Any comments or discussion on this one? Could I get advisory votes from our student reps, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-29, approval of encouraged new policy 2401, financial education, mastery-based learning and credit, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-29 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-30, approval of the encouraged new policy 3117, students in or released from an institutional education facility. Any further comments or questions on this one? Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-30, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-30 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-31, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 3230, student privacy and searches. Any comments or discussion? Student advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-31, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-31 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-32, approval of the discretionary new policy 1225, school director legislative program. Any comments or questions on this one?
I just want to say how excited I am to see this explicated a little bit further.
Yeah, I'd love to see this for each of the roles, but I think it's great to start here since this is so directed upwards towards the legislature. I think that's a fantastic place to start. Student representatives, advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-32, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-32 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-33, approval of the discretionary update to South Louis School District Policy 1250, students on governing boards. Any comments or discussion on this?
May I ask if the student board representatives could prompt my memory? Did we discuss the language around the expectation to attend all board meetings? And did we flag that as something to consider?
I believe we discussed changing it from required to expected, but there is, I guess, a bit of a concern around expected because it kind of prompts the idea that we should be here at all meetings, leaving out times when it's difficult to be here for such and such reasons.
Yeah, that was indeed the change from required to expected.
If you feel comfortable sharing, I'd like to know whether the change in language puts any of your concerns to rest around we did discuss burnout for student board representatives being pulled in a few different directions last time we met. So I'm curious if this language feels inviting enough for you.
I think part of the position is that we are supposed to be here and we're expected to attend every meeting that we can. Obviously, there's some exceptions due to school reasons, sickness, but I think accepted is okay in this instance, and it's a lot better than required.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have to agree with Katya on that. I think required is very strict and it doesn't allow room, but I think expected is a more subtle version. Where again, it's important that we're here and representing students, and I think that's important to express in our policy. So I would hate to have a student representative in the future only showing up at like one meeting per 6 months. So I think it is important to say that we expect students to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you for your response.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay. Could I have advisory votes from our student reps?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-33, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-33 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-34, approval of the discretionary update to South Louis School District Policy 1410, executive or closed sessions. Is there any commentary, questions on this one? Okay, student representatives.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for the advisory votes. All those in favor of approving Memorandum 2223-34, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-34 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-35, approval of the encouraged update to South Louis School District Policy 5004, Infection Control Program. Are there any comments or questions on this? I'm going to look this way this time first. Okay, advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-35, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-35 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-36, approval of the discretionary update to South Liberty School District Policy 5410, holidays leaves. Is there any commentary or questions on this? Okay, student representatives, your advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-36, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-36 has been approved. Memorandum 2223-37, approval of the discretionary update to South Liberty School District Policy 5612, temporary administrators. Comments, questions, discussion? Advisory votes, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-37, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-37 has been approved. And our final one for the evening, memorandum 2223-38, approval of the school bus purchase. Mr. Pullman, would you mind just giving us a brief update on this one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So basically, this is a request to have you approve the purchase of a electric school bus. Went through the process of looking at 3 different companies. Unfortunately, only one of them was really responsive in the time frame that we needed in order to get this ordered and get a purchase order by April to the federal government, which is RWC Group. Lion is new to the state and had some real difficulties pricing buses for us. The first price they gave us was well below the state bid, and they didn't respond with a second or third request for a price. So that's why I'm recommending RWC. We do have a federal grant for $375,000 for the school bus, $20,000 for the charging station and the infrastructure required to do that. The price of the bus and the charging station without the installation is approximately $400,000. There is no sales tax on EVs in the state at this time, though I did request a $430,000 limit or something like that. In case something changes between now and delivery, which is probably 6 to 8 months out. But I fully anticipate the cost is about $400,000 plus whatever the installation cost is to run more electrical conduit and things like that to actually hook the charging station up. The station is included in this bid, and it is a company that works with this particular manufacturer to make sure that works with this school bus. There's a question that was about, residual money in this account. This fund can only be used for the purchase of school buses. So we do have about $155,000 in there that is extra that will stay in that fund until we accumulate enough funds to buy another bus, whatever type of bus that may be in the future. Again, it is a replacement basis with the state of Washington, which basically means that they will fund us not necessarily for the price of the bus, but the price of the replacement bus. So they will start with the price we pay, but if it changes over time and EVs will probably go down, I would assume, then the reimbursement becomes a smaller amount. So we could actually purchase a new bus in 13 years at whatever price that is. So it's a little different than saying it's a straight reimbursement for the money that we're receiving. But this will substantially increase the amount we receive on an annual basis as this reimbursement from OSBI to replenish the fund to buy more buses. That's pretty much it. The process is I need to get a purchase order and have it submitted by the latter part of April to the federal government to comply with the grant. And then we can go ahead and get it placed and they will then reimburse us. And it looks like they will reimburse us prior to us receiving the actual school bus so that we should have the money here when we need to make that payment, because we currently don't have that amount of money in this particular fund, though we could transfer it from general fund temporarily.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pullman. Any comments or questions from the board members?
Yeah, I would just say I'm so thrilled to see this finally getting voted on. It feels like it's been a really long time, so I'm finally excited that we have a bus. And I'm just excited to have this be much better for students as it limits health concerns caused by exhaust, as well as moving our district to be more sustainable and taking action in the climate crisis that's affecting our island specifically.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself. I'll also add that electric vehicles by and large have a lower total cost of ownership than their internal combustion counterparts. So even with the grant money aside, I think this is a really smart move for the district for all the reasons Audrey mentioned, and also for financial reasons.
And one of the things that I did purchase as an option on this bus is a 13-year warranty on the batteries. So we will get a full 13 years out of this thing, because that was a real concern that the replacement cost of batteries is like $100,000. So that's included in there, and it was a very small, minimal warranty charge. So.
Excellent. Thank you for the due diligence as you always provide. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I'm also just very excited about this being a conversation starter about other ways that our district can grow in our climate resilience and our energy efficiency. And I feel like the timing is wonderful to be taking a really big step. Thanks.
Okay, can I have advisory votes from the student reps?
Aye.
Very excited advisory votes. Thank you. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2223-38, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Memorandum 2223-38 has been approved. We will get our electric bus. Thank you. We'll move on to reports. We start with the financial and enrollment report and affirmative action report from Mr. Pullman.
So we'll start with the financial report, and this is our finances as of the end of February. Enrollment wise, we are currently with our basic education 1,081, about 67 FTE in our vocational program, and about 74 in our ALE program, with special education coming in at about 186. And you'll see that those numbers are actually rising as we move through the year, as more students are identified for needs. Just a second, I got to move something on my screen. Okay. So our average enrollment is September through March. We're almost 1,080 for basic education, a little over 72 in ALE. That gives us a total of 1,152 for funding purposes, and about 69 for CTE and 179 roughly for special education. Again, just a look by entity or buildings, the K4, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, et cetera, kind of the changes that happens throughout the year in each of those programs. And if you have questions, feel free to ask as we move through. Just a quick look at what March this year looks like compared to March of last year in the different grade groups. And you can see the changes that we have in there as far as classes that are larger or smaller than the previous year. And this is the ALE, same type of comparison, what this year looks like compared to last year. And again, sometimes it looks like a big discrepancy, but we might only be talking about 4 to 6 kids as a difference. It just, the numbers are quite small, but it gives you that picture. And then just a district enrollment. We're fairly following the same year, 5-year trend. We're a little bit above it and have been, starting at the beginning of the year, but it's a very similar pattern, which I expect to get us about 1,150 roughly at the end of the year for ending financial reasons. We are halfway through our school year, starts in September and runs through August. So we are 6 months in and would expect our expenditures and our revenue to be somewhere near that amount. Normally revenue is slightly below because we claim our federal grants a month after. So we're in good shape with revenue, and our expenditure is about 48% of budget, which is good for this time of the year. But I still do point out that even though expenditures is percentage wise less than revenue, it's actually dollar amount larger. So that's to be expected. And then just a quick look at the revenue and the expenditure by month to see how it patterns with previous years. 4-year look at revenue in the different categories, our local property taxes, the local revenue generated in the school, our state funding, our state special purpose funding, and our federal grants. Kind of gives you a picture of where are we and is there a change that we see. The one change is in the state funding. You can see that as less than it was last year. Federal spending is actually, or revenue is actually up, and that's the ESSER grants, which we are in the last year for most of those. So that will go back to what we would see more typically in the far right yellow column for our federal funds, usually about $900,000 a year. So we are expecting to be back at that point next year. We add the encumbrances, the things that we have contracts for, we know we have to spend. Our non-employee costs are about 62% of budget. Our payrolls at about 98%, and overall we're about 92%, which is what I would anticipate, halfway through the year. There's a lot of things that are, still to be spent as we move through the year. A quick breakdown of the kind of the big areas where we spend our money: staffing and benefits, the 3 on the left. And you can see that the certificated staffing is down a little bit from last year, but again, it's up from 3 years ago. Classified staffing is going up. Benefits are continuing to climb every year. And that's FICA, Medicare, retirement, paid family medical, all the additional things that we pay. Insurance, and then supplies is a little lower. Services are about what you expect, and travel, though small, is about what we would have seen at this time of the year pre-pandemic. Looking at, how are we doing in our different categories of salary costs? The far left is the contracts. You can see it's about 100,000 less than we had budgeted, but you can also see that the additional hours budget is about twice of what we would anticipate. It's 100,000, which is what we had budgeted for the year. And it's really that difference between people that we couldn't get hired in time, so we had additional hours as subs and that type of thing. So it balances, and I'm fine with that. The other part is the leaves. We're probably in pretty good shape with our leaves at this time. The leaves cash out normally happens at the end of the year, so I would anticipate that there wouldn't be a lot spent. It's basically last year's leaves in September. So I think we're in fairly good shape as far as additional costs and leaves and all the things that are kind of the unknown things that happen throughout the year. This, I think, is something I need to pay attention to, and this is our revenue and expenditure year to date. And you can see that typically revenue at this time is higher than our expenditures, except for the last 2 years. That has reversed. And that's why, we have to look at the budget process and how do we make those balance, because at the current time they don't. So it's something that just to be aware of. We did make an adjustment for 22-23. You can see it went down some from that 21-22 deficit between revenue and expenditure. So as we move into April, we'll start talking about budget. We'll talk about enrollment. We'll talk about the revenue. And then we'll get into May and we'll start talking about the expenditure side of the budget. And we'll look at this. Fund balance, still have a good fund balance in that, plus 20% range at this time. Budget status report is just our revenue and expenditure. And you can see that our ending fund balance for the month in our general fund is about $4.9 million. Another way of looking at the same fund balance, but this is assets and liabilities. It also lists all of the different funds that we do have, which are capital projects, debt service, ASB, transportation vehicle fund, and the private purpose trust fund. And each of those, you can see the beginning balance, the revenue, and the expenditure year to date on those. Any questions I could answer for you?
I just want to thank you, Dan, for your consistent stewardship of our financial forecasting and the financial future for our district, especially this year as many districts are really hitting some hard financial times and having to make some hard decisions. I think back on your foresight back when McCleary decision was made, and we were looking at what would that mean for our teachers and for our teams in 5 years. And I am constantly reminded of how you saw this coming and how you articulated that to us and the board at the time, and how we were able to plan strategically and responsibly so that we are not being as disruptive as some of the other districts in the state right now. And so thank you.
Yeah, +1 to the thank you for these continually detailed reports. I have a question about the ESSER funds that are expiring. Are we spending any of those funds on recurring costs that we will now need, or when they expire, need to find other sources of revenue for?
Yes. We are. We're actually spending, quite a bit of the funds. We used a lot of the ESSER funds to maintain staffing in the last few years while the funding had been down. So we will look at those as we go through the budget process and, how do we mitigate the loss of those funds?
Thank you.
I'm excited to see those local incomes coming in from the community center again, and looking forward to seeing what happens with those and if we can raise them further with the South Campus starting next year. So I love seeing those come back. Thank you very much. I think we can move on to the affirmative action report.
Yes, we can. And I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of highlight the affirmative action report. We will most likely next fall need to revisit this. It's a 5-year plan, and we got to the end of that plan. There basically was 3 goals in there. We looked at it the last time. And the first one was to look at our recruitment and selection. And one of the things we looked at directly was the administration. At that time, we had very little representation of females in the administration. And since then we have added 2. So we're more balanced than we have been in the past, which is a good thing. We've also looked at our job descriptions and our application process to make sure we're eliminating anything that is a bias for a large group of categories across there, to make it so that when we look at these applications, we're not identifying, traits about specific people, demographic informations. We're also adding questions about equity, their belief in different areas around there, and then providing the training that you're aware of that we've been working on in those areas. Yeah, and that was the third goal, was to prevent employment discrimination based upon gender. So again, looking at the application process, looking at the interview process, all those type things to try to remove some of those things. There's also staff data in there and student data that identifies the staff we have in different categories as reported to OSPI. Unless you have questions, I'm not going to read those things to you. I'm sure you could read them yourselves, but I guess if there's any questions that I could ask or answer for you, I'd be happy to take a shot at that.
I know that we've had discussion in the past about how to encourage people, particularly of various protected groups, to apply here, and how some of it is availability of housing for any applicant, and some of it is making sure that the community itself feels welcoming, which it generally is, but sometimes cannot be for some folks. But I just want to make sure we're keeping that top of mind. I know we are, based on what I'm seeing in here. I'm just bubbling it up to the top in this conversation.
I have a question about the very last section, which is goals. Are those proposed goals for 23-24 or for like the full 5-year refresh?
No, these are for next year. I think we need to look at this again and see what it looks like for the next 5 years. And they will most likely change based on where the district is at that particular time.
Gotcha. Thanks. Yeah, I just want to put in my support for these goals or goals like them, making sure that our staff and administration reflects the diversity of the community, and that we can attract and retain folks who might not look like you or me. And then also the last one, to make sure student voice is part of this process. So I appreciate those goals.
Dan, could we also maybe add a goal in around, and it might not be appropriate here, and let me know if it's not, monitoring the retention of staff who meet these kind of indicators? I think, I'll take our administrative dynamic, right? We have increased female staff on the leadership team, and we have also retained the female staff on the leadership team. And so I think that would be a good indicator as well of our progress towards shifting culture in the building.
Yeah, happy to do that.
That's a really good point, because hiring someone is great, but keeping them around is even better. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pullman. I believe we're going to the student representatives report next.
Great. So today we had the SAT, so we're both doing great. We just got to sit in a room and take a test this morning, so that was really fun.
Another thing I'd like to share, and it was actually previously shared during public comment, is a lot of students have recently brought up with the sports season, but definitely addressed in the fall season as well, is not stopping for food, as well as on band trips. I think it was seen previously as a COVID measure, which made it more understandable for students to be like, okay, I understand, like we have to limit our spread of the virus. It's important not to stop or like gather in like a restaurant together. But now I think there's kind of drawback that's like, hey, we eat at 10:50 a.m. and we get home at 9:30 from sports events. Like, when are we supposed to eat within that period? And it's really difficult for students to, for every single student to be able to carry something that they can have for lunch and dinner, as well as some students bring their breakfast in. So that's carrying 3 meals a day with you, which is really difficult, especially as like an athlete who has to, focus on, or a band student has to focus on their performance in that as well. I think is seen previously as an equity issue, right? If you can't, if we're going to like say a grocery store, right? Not every student is able to afford something. I think we could use that same case of equity for bake sales, for our Falcon Nest that we offer in our school. Those are both things that would come out of our pocket, and reduced lunch doesn't cover those as well. So I don't think we can focus on that being an equity issue for coming out of students' pockets to pay for it if we don't address the equity issues, say for like bake sales and such, which we need as a student body to cover fundraising for ASB. It's also just extremely important to have nutrition, not only for performance as a district in various extracurricular activities, but also student performance in academics as well. One question I had is this a policy that's implemented by the board, or is this a decision made by administration?
First of all, thank you for both being here after taking the SATs. I have vague memories of my mind being completely wiped after that. So I'm very impressed that you're here and participating as vibrantly as you have been. It is my understanding, or to the best of my knowledge, there is no policy, no school board policy that addresses that. So that would be something to be handled at the administration level. Dr. Moshe, can you confirm that?
It is an administrative decision born out of financial issues and equity issues. And yes, I'm upholding the decision that we made collectively, and coaches were made aware of it many, many times, and the reasons why many, many times. Despite what you heard this evening, students may not be aware, or may be under a different assumption as to why. Yes, in fact, we did not stop during COVID. And we also have asked coaches to ask students to prepare themselves for the trips. The trip down south, students were not stopped from stopping for a 2-hour ride. We've made exceptions, for example, for students who have gone to the east side of the mountains. We've made exceptions for, we have a trip going out that Mr. Patton and I talked about in the near future that will be stopping. It is one of those areas where we are saving some money and student time. But for example, we have a trip going over to Port Angeles. There's a 2-hour wait for the ferry. They certainly are going to be able to get food and stop for food because they're not going to miss a ferry. They have to wait. So again, there are reasons behind it, and I understand that some folks are frustrated by it. But there are many, many decisions that are made administratively on a daily basis, and this is one of them.
I just want to make a point of order. I think this is an important discussion to be had, but I don't think the student board report is the proper place for it. It seems like there is either some missing or needed policy or procedure around this bus stop issue that is a concern to the community. And so I think as a board, we should address it working together with Dr. Moshe in the appropriate way.
I agree with that.
I
also
actually
think
would step in and say this is not a board's decision at all.
that's what I was
This is
actually
an
just going to say.
administrative decision.
Is that unless the board decides that we should have policy, school district policy about this, which I would be concerned would add inflexibility for the longer trips, such as Dr. Moshe is talking about, that this is something we should leave to our administrators. That's my personal belief. If the board wishes to bring it up as policy and multiple members of the board want to do that, we can do that. I would actually say that since this is not currently policy, the board meeting isn't necessarily a place to have that continued discussion.
Yeah, I would certainly appreciate if these things were brought up, especially I always applaud our students for being able to speak their mind. But it's important to also address it where the change can be made. And I'm more than happy to meet with students and Mr. Patton and talk about this because it is not a board issue.
And I want to make it clear that asking the question is great. Like,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for that question of, is this policy? Is this board business? I just don't want to get caught up in something that is not board business once we've determined that.
Understandable. Yeah, I think it'd be good to discuss this outside with students' involvement.
Thank you. Thank you all. Any comments or questions for the students? Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. I thought that, I'm sorry. I thought that I was totally thinking that since you had been working on the SAT and prepping for it, that was, please, I'm even more impressed now.
We have some, so spring sports are starting. There's a lot of games going on, a lot of meets. Our first home tennis meet is tomorrow. So hopefully it doesn't get rained out. I'm really hoping so, but come support the spring sports.
End of third quarter is approaching soon, which kind of makes it feel like we're getting a lot closer to summer. So that's always a great feeling, but then you know that a lot of tests and finals are just around the corner. But then graduation, so it's a win, lose. So yeah.
Recently, clubs, Model UN attended Seattle Mun a few weekends ago, which was really fun. We had about 8 participants, which is a higher number or the highest number we've had for an in-person conference, which is really cool. And we are attending another conference in mid-May, which is a 2-day conference, which will also be really fun.
And then Interact Club has been getting involved in the community through working at the Freelands Noel Library to help move books monthly. So that's really great to see.
And then this Saturday is Tolo. So each grade puts on a different dance, and this is the freshman's dance that they get to take charge of. So they're selling tickets this week. They're doing fundraising for that, and it'll be this Saturday. So we're hoping to get some good turnout for that.
And then it feels like this happened a long time ago, but it was actually just the end of February. Katya and I attended the legislative conference in Olympia with the rest of the board, where we were able to advocate on behalf of students in our district on a state level with our state senators, state representatives, and we even met with Governor Inslee and the superintendent of OSBI to talk about specific issues within our district that we believe need to be heard on a state level. A few focuses were pupil transportation, as well as special ed transportation, both of which are underfunded in our district and take away from other opportunities from students and also from the specific areas of transportation and special ed, which are crucial to be funded. And it's also required by the state, as education is the paramount duty of our state legislator.
That was a really cool opportunity for Audrey and I, and I'm excited for next year. Another thing we did recently was we went into the classrooms of some middle school students, which was really cool because they're so close to us, which means sometimes we kind of just take on a few students instead of going to talk to more of them. But we were able to go to the homerooms of Miss Mylan and Miss Donnelly and talk to those students. And they had a lot of questions for us. We had a lot of things to tell them, and it was a really cool opportunity. And one major key point they were really interested is
the bond. So I think there's been a few misconceptions that we might have already passed it. So there's already like designs going out and stuff of what they want to see. But that's really exciting to hear. Another focus was the transition of bringing sixth graders to the 6 through 12 campus and kind of discussions of what that transformation is going to look like. A lot of students brought up like, how many periods a day are we going to have? Are the lunches going to be separate? I believe a student brought up this point earlier. How are we going to fit all the students in one building? And also other like questions about the layout of the campus.
And a lot of them were really excited that they'll graduate after the bond is proposed to be completed. So that was really cool for them to hear. Just to highlight the presentations we heard today, I thought all the middle schoolers did a really amazing job. I really enjoyed the study skills class, and I think as high schoolers, a lot of us would appreciate a time management specific class. That would be cool. And just like in general, it was really cool to hear them speak and how willing they are to come and present.
Yeah, I'd like to point out one aspect of the ALE presentation that was really exciting to hear is the center around community and how community involvement and action is a really great educational opportunity. So that was a really great part of the presentation that I enjoyed.
Okay, now any comments or questions for the students?
Thank you. Great presentation right on the heels of the SAT. That's very impressive.
I thank you for sharing your experiences down on the Hill. I totally forgot we hadn't talked about that yet on the board. So hopefully we'll get some from other board members as well. I'm very jealous that you all got to have that experience. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Moshe, Superintendent's report.
I most certainly always enjoy seeing our students present and hearing from our student representatives because they represent what we're here for and the best of us. So thank you for always sitting with us and having your voice heard. I really do appreciate it. It is Support Staff Week. And so the governor made a proclamation that I'm not going to read, but certainly it is to celebrate all of our support staff. That includes food service, transportation, maintenance and custodial, paraprofessionals, clerical staff, administrative assistants, and so on. There are 62,000 educational support staff professionals in our state. And they really do provide instrumental support in fulfilling our collective responsibility to educate all of our students. So I just wanted to take a moment in the board's time to celebrate them and thank them. And as the board probably knows, this year, the district provided as a thank you to every staff member, an item of district memorabilia of their choosing. So folks were able to get t-shirts and the like. So that was our appreciation token this year. Audit entrance conference is tomorrow. We are doing that via Zoom for any board member that can join. So our weekly leadership meeting will follow that via Zoom. So again, that was announced and put on the board's agenda, but that's tomorrow at noon. If anyone's interested in joining the board in that, there is a Zoom link online. It's riveting. It actually is the entrance conference, just tells you what they're going to do. The information that comes at the end after they're done is what is most interesting. And next week, our students will be happy to know, because I'm sure they don't remember, that next week is the last week before April break. And Friday next week is a triple bonus Friday. It is last day of the month, which means it's payday. It's Friday and it's the last day before break. So that is the superintendent's update. and some students that were here earlier talking about how to present and that you can't laugh because it's not professional. And I told them that that wasn't true because you have to be able to laugh. So that is the superintendent's update.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moshe. And yes, even in the few support staff that we interact with as board members are always amazing. Thank you for being here and doing everything that you do. Okay, we now move on to board comments and reports. Do we have any board members who would like to comment or report? Either on the Day on the Hill or anything else going on in your purview or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I think I shared some of my initial reflections on the Day on the Hill last time we gathered, but I will just say that it's really fascinating to keep an eye on the bill tracker and the updates, especially WASDA has done a nice job of publishing updates. Some of the bills that we were most excited about advocating for have become so diminished that they're actually leaning more towards no now because they hardly do a thing for our students and might even be a step backwards. So it is worth continuing to keep an eye on the progress of the legislative session and weigh in with opinions when those moments occur where we have a bill changing its status in either of the two branches. Thank you.
Audrey and Katja kind of summed up the Day on the Hill, but it was really great to have FaceTime with our elected officials and hear how they planned to fund public education. And yeah, hopefully they will actually come through with stronger bills to fund our paramount duty. And yeah, also I want to echo the thanks to our support staff for keeping our buildings cleaned and well maintained and our students nourished and everything that makes this district run so that students can be their best and learn. So thank you to everybody.
Okay, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you and good night.